When you think of ancient Egypt, I bet you're picturing the massive pyramids, the golden masks, all that incredible stuff. But today, we're going to go a little deeper. We're not just looking at what happened, we're looking at how we even know it happened. This is all about the detective work, the incredible process of piecing together a world that disappeared thousands of years ago.
So, that brings us to the big question, right? How in the world do you reconstruct a lost civilization? Think about it. It's like having this giant, epic puzzle, except you've lost the box, half the pieces are gone forever, and the pieces you do have are all broken and faded. That's pretty much the challenge historians are up against with ancient Egypt.
And this puzzle covers a mind-boggling amount of time. We're talking more than 3,000 years of history. To put that in perspective, that's more time than has passed between the fall of the Roman Empire and right now. The sheer scale of it all is just immense. It's one of the biggest historical investigations ever.
To solve a case this big, historians have to become detectives, right? They can't interview witnesses, but they do have clues. And it turns out there are 4 main types of evidence that, when you put them all together, help bring this ancient world roaring back to life. So, let's get into it. Okay, our first clue is the one you can't miss. It's the biggest, the most spectacular. It's the story that Egypt carved into stone, hoping it would last forever. We're talking about the monuments.
So when I say monuments, that means the whole shebang. The grand temples, the hidden tombs, the giant statues, and things called stelae, which are basically huge stone slabs with official announcements carved into them. The key here is they were all built to be permanent, to carry the official story of the pharaohs and the gods into eternity. You could almost think of it as ancient public relations.
And that's the catch, isn't it? These weren't exactly unbiased news reports. They were basically propaganda, designed to show this perfect, idealized image of the rulers. I mean, a classic example is Ramesses II. He covered temple walls with these epic scenes of him single-handedly winning the Battle of Kadesh. But other records show it was more of a messy draw. The monuments tell us the story the kings wanted everyone to believe.
So what does this mean for our investigation? Well, it means these incredible monuments come with a huge warning label. We just can't take them at face value. To get anywhere near the real story, we absolutely need other sources to check them against.
All right, so let's move on to our next clue. This is where things get really interesting, because sometimes fragile bits of papyrus or broken pieces of stone can tell us way more than a giant temple wall. Welcome to the ancient archives. Now, these records are kind of like the kingdom's filing cabinet. You've got king lists from a priest named Manetho. He's actually the guy who first broke up Egyptian history into the 30 dynasties we still use. Then there's the Turin Canon, which is this amazing papyrus that's like a royal spreadsheet, listing kings and the exact length of their reigns. And you even find clues in really unexpected places, like a medical text that happens to include a calendar of festivals. But maybe one of the most important pieces of this whole puzzle is something called the Palermo Stone. It's this big slab of black basalt, and get this, it's one of the oldest historical documents in the entire world. It's got records that go all the way back to the very first Egyptian kings. And this just shows you how powerful these clues can be. I mean, yeah, it's shattered into pieces, but what's left is a gold mine. The stone lists the most important events for each and every year of a king's rule. We're talking festivals, wars, and even how high the Nile flooded that year. It's basically a year-by-year diary of the entire kingdom.
Okay, so far, all our clues have been from inside Egypt. But, Egypt didn't exist in a vacuum. So for our third clue, we have to look at it through the eyes of other people. Its neighbors, its allies, and sometimes its enemies. So we have records from other major civilizations of the time, like Babylon, who wrote to and about the Egyptians. And then, much later, you get these incredibly detailed accounts from Greek and Roman historians and travelers who actually went to Egypt and wrote down everything they saw. It gives us a totally different outside perspective.
But, and you're probably sensing a pattern here, this clue also comes with its own bias. You've got to be really careful. These accounts were written by foreigners, and a lot of the time, they totally misunderstood what they were seeing. They were trying to make sense of Egyptian culture through their own Greek or Roman lens, and it didn't always work.
So the detective work becomes all about comparison. On one hand, you've got Egypt's official story. Divine pharaohs, perfect cosmic order, everything's great. And on the other hand, you have the foreign view. These fascinated but often confused descriptions. The real truth, as it usually does, is probably hiding somewhere in between those two extremes.
All right, our final set of clues is totally different. This one doesn't involve any writing at all. This is the stuff that archaeologists literally pull out of the dirt, the physical, material remains of the civilization.
Yeah, archaeology gives us the non-textual evidence. We're talking about the pottery people ate from, the tools they used to build their homes, the foundations of the towns they lived in. These are silent objects, but wow, they tell one heck of a story that the official texts just completely ignore.
And this is why archaeology is absolutely crucial. See, the monuments and the king lists, they tell the story of the 1%, the pharaohs, the priests, the elite. But the artifacts, they tell the story of the other 99%, the farmers, the builders, the soldiers, the ordinary people who actually made Egypt run.
By studying this stuff, we can figure out what daily life was really like. We can see how their society was structured, how their art evolved. And sometimes, artifacts tell us things that are completely missing from the written record. Like finding early Mesopotamian-style seals in Egypt is hard proof that these two cultures were in contact, long before any official scribe bothered to write it down.
So there we have it, our 4 big piles of clues: the official monuments, the administrative paperwork, the foreign accounts, and the archaeological finds. So now, for the million-dollar question, how do you actually put it all together to build the story? Well, it's a really careful, step-by-step process. First, you find a clue. Then you analyze it, and you're always asking, okay, who made this and why? What's their angle? But the most critical step is number 3, cross-referencing. You check that monument's big claim against a little note on a papyrus. You compare an artifact you dug up with what some foreign historian wrote. Only after all that checking and balancing can you start to weave it all into a narrative you can trust.
And I think the most amazing thing to remember is that this story is never really finished. Our picture of ancient Egypt isn't some dusty old book on a shelf. It's a living, breathing thing that changes and evolves with every new discovery, every new translation. A new tomb could be found tomorrow that makes us rethink everything we thought we knew.
And that leaves you with a really cool thought to chew on. After all this time, all the tombs we've opened and texts we've read, what pieces of this incredible ancient puzzle are still out there, buried under the sands, just waiting for the next generation of historical detectives to come along and find them?